It's been a tremendously busy 3 and 4 weeks here that we've just come out of. And we've got a great set of videos coming up from Mount Vernon, but we're just not quite ready yet.
We're still kind of digging out.
Yeah, we're digging out from this guy. I was just at Martin Station. The website's the website's just up, and it's brand new. The catalog is just.
So what you're saying is we've gone back into the archives.
We've gone back into the archives again. You're gonna have to bear with us one more week. This is a wonderful video from way back. It was
2011.
Yeah, it was from the first set of videos that we did, August of 2011. It was before we really knew that cooking videos were the thing that we should be doing. So this one is a lot of fun. We're going to play it now, and we're going to come back and talk about it a little bit afterwards. Here you go. So today we're going to take a common soldier's ration, and we're going to turn it into 3 different meals: a soup, a stew, and a hash. Thanks for joining us today on this episode. The foundation of our stew and our hash, we're going to use salt pork. And the foundation for the stew, we're going to use fresh beef. So the salt pork we're using today is salt pork that we prepared in an 18th century manner. When it's time to use the salt pork, you have to soak it. You have to take several hours, soak it in water, change the water out, soak it again until it's ready to use. If you don't soak it several times and get all the salt out, it's inedible. So the big difference between a soup and a stew is how much water we use when we prepare it. And the first thing we have to do is to get this water going, get it boiling. I've got 6 pints of water started boiling here for the soup, and I've got 3 pints for the stew. Let's start out with our soup. While our 6 pints of water is getting ready to boil here, I'm going to brown our salt pork in a little bit of fat. I'm going to let this set and sear a little bit. Browning this meat first will release a lot of the flavors. So we're doing this in small batches. If we do too much at once, we can't get it to caramelize properly. That releases too many juices. Once your salt pork is browned, it's time to dump it in your boiling water. If any scum develops on the surface, scrape that off. We're going to let this boil about 15 minutes. Now that our soup has boiled about 15 minutes with the meat in it, it's time to add some other things. I've got some carrots here and some parsnips. We're going to add those. So there's the carrots, part of our parsnips. From our pocket spice kit, we need to use a little bit of salt and pepper. Oh, yeah, it's looking good. It's also now a good time to add a bay leaf if you've got it. And we've got a little bit of cider vinegar. Just a splash or 2 of cider vinegar will really set this off. Now that we've added these things to our soup, we're going to moderate the fire a little bit and let it simmer for about an hour. Now that our soup has simmered about an hour, it's time to throw in some cabbage if we've got it. And I've also got a little bit of rosemary and thyme. I got a little bundle here that I'm going to throw in. You don't want to put this stuff in too soon, or it'll destroy the flavors. Many period recipes for soup like this will call for bread to be cubed up and tossed in at the end, kind of like dumplings. We're going to let this simmer for another 15 minutes. For this recipe, I've got about a half a pound of dried peas here. We soaked these overnight, so they're going to be ready to cook. So I'm starting out with about a half a pound of beef here. This should go really nicely with our peas. Coating this meat with flour and then browning it will help thicken up the stew. So now that our beef is well browned, we're going to add that to our 3 pints of boiling stew water, and then we're going to add our peas. Let's get this beef in there without losing any of it. There we go. And now we're going to add the peas. So now that our stew's boiled for about 15 minutes, we're going to add some potato, some onion, and some parsnips, along with some salt and pepper. We're going to let that simmer for about an hour. You'll know this stew is ready when the peas break down and the stew thickens up. And that really is a matter of how long you've soaked your peas. If you haven't soaked them at all, this might take 2 or 3 hours. But if you soak them, it won't take as long. While our soups and stews are simmering here, let's start the hash. Our hash is a fairly simple dish. I've got some finely diced salt pork here. I've already browned this up with some onion. And I'm going to take a couple of parboiled or already boiled potatoes. I'm going to dice these up and mash them, put them in with that. We also need to add a little bit of milk to give it some liquid to work with. If you happen to have some allspice, it makes a wonderful addition to the hash. I'm going to form this up into patties and fry it in our frying pan. Well, there we have all 3 dishes finished. We've got a salt pork soup, and the salt pork really has a wonderful flavor. The saltiness balanced out with the other flavors. Actually, extremely good. Here's our salt pork hash. It may not look great, but let me tell you, it is my favorite on the table here. The salt pork, very tender, just the right amount of saltiness, along with the potatoes and the onions. Definitely a favorite. So the last dish here was the stew. This is the beef and the peas stew, and it thickened up rather nicely. The peas add their own kind of sweetness to it. The beef is excellent in here. Any one of these things you will definitely enjoy. All the utensils here, all the equipment we used, you can see on our website or in our print catalog. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Well, Kevin, what do you think?
Definitely one of our earlier videos.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And again, probably scripted. But anyway, that's beside the point. You know, to call that a soldier's meal, it's probably stretching it just a little bit. Maybe an officer's meal.
Well, imagine it would be a soldier's meal if they had everything available to them, which
Right.
they never had.
Right.
They never had everything.
Especially out on the campaign. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe
Well, no.
maybe more likely in a fort setting.
Or in a structured camp setting where they've been there for a couple of months.
Right.
Of course, you read the accounts and they were continually complaining about not having enough food. Possibly in a fort setting, it would have been better.
But the fact is,
Yeah.
a soup, a stew, and a hash were very common forms of food, both for military
Yeah.
as well as in households of the day. We've been talking recently about this continual pot.
Yes.
And that either the stew or the soup would have been a great start for that, where you
Right.
just keep adding, keep it warm over the fire.
And the soldiers would have liked that because they wouldn't have had to clean the pot. They just kept going with it.
You know, John, I recall a reference that I read a long time ago where George Washington was complaining about the men frying the food and making apparently hashes instead of soups and stews.
Yeah, where it was a more efficient use of the food and that they were getting the liquid at the same time and not being wasteful. And there are a lot of different references where officers are talking about the soldiers not being very good cooks.
Right.
Of course, they were just young guys. They were coming from home. They didn't learn how to cook at home.
Right.
That wasn't their job.
Right.
So it's a great topic. It's fun, and there's so much more to learn about, even about these these things like the soup, stew, and hash situation in camp cooking and in fort cooking.
Now, for those of you who have not seen the video on how to make an authentic salt pork, we mentioned that in the video, but we don't really give reference to it. We'll put a link in the description below. Be sure and watch that video. It's a very interesting video, and that's exactly the pork that we used in this recipe. So, and one other thing too, John, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, a lot of the information that we were using at that time that's really helpful is this little book called Feeding the Frontier Army. It was out of print for quite a while, but it's back in print. We'll put some kind of link reference down in the comment section. It's specific to Fort Snelling, which is 1824, I think.
Yeah, well, it says 1775 up to 1865.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's specific to that, but really, it's all the same kind of things going on in all the North American military settings, and even likely other parts of the world.
Yeah, that's a very well documented book, and
great book.
Yeah. So, and we offer that online.
Yep.
So.
Make sure to check out the brand new website. Don't break it. I just put it together.
Please.
Yeah. But the website is looking good. We've got a lot of work to do on that, but it's got so many ways to grow. A wonderful website. You can also request a print catalog if you'd like one. And make sure to stay tuned in the weeks to come. I was just back from Martin Station again this year. Got some more interviews. There's so much to talk about, so many videos coming out, and I've got more projects piling on. It's wow, it's intense.
So thank you for your patience for the past 3 weeks as we've kind of taken a break. We've stepped back just a little bit to get all these other things done. Now we're catching our breath. And next Monday, be sure and stay tuned for the first episode from Mount Vernon. It's an exciting series. We had a great time out there, great people. They really rolled out the red carpet for us. And if you're ever in that area, you gotta go. You gotta go to that site. Yeah. So,
thank you so much for all your amazing support and commenting, thumbs ups, and sharing our videos. That's probably the most important thing you can do right now. Really, YouTube's putting a lot of pressure on creators and growing their channels, and things aren't the same as they were before. We need more help from you. Share our videos whenever possible. And thank you so much for watching today.